Hey guys, awesome being at this event. I think for an inaugural event, it's really good. I want to give an introduction about myself. I'm a co-founder and general partner of Kronos Ventures. It's part of our broader ecosystem, Kronos Research, which is a market maker HFT trading firm. I run the ventures business. We started about 3 years ago, made a lot of friends, saw a lot of interesting things happen. Invested, our portfolio has about 70 plus projects. Always welcoming new ideas. Very appreciative of being on this panel to talk about, layer twos on Ethereum. And I think we should probably get the other panelists up here. Yeah.
All right, I think it's time for introductions. My name is Mark. I go by 0x Veer on the internet. I'm the head of BD at Mantle, have been involved in the Mantle ecosystem since day zero, part of the kind of first team working on the proposal and so on for the layer 2. So we are an Ethereum layer 2. We're an optimistic L2, which we can talk about later what that means. We have some special designs, but mostly it's just a standard EVM L2 for the users and the developers from their perspective. We also have various other products like a liquid staking protocol called Mantle ETH or METH, and many other things. And that's it. Next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Derek. I'm the COO and the co-founder of Kroma. Lightscale is a legal entity that's making Kroma. We're actually a subsidiary of a gaming company called WeMade in Korea. They're listed in the Korean Stock Exchange, valued at about $1 billion. They've been around more than 20 years making games in Korea. So they're pretty much Web 2 based. And what we're trying to do is trying to bridge the Korean gaming ecosystem to the Ethereum ecosystem because we're the layer 2 on top of Ethereum. So yeah, I'll talk more about it later.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben. I'm the Chief Community Officer at Taiko. Taiko is a Type 1 zk VM, and we are also a based roll-up, which means that all of the financial rewards go back to the L1 sequences. So in essence, we are a general purpose roll-up, and we are also making sure that we are aligned as fully to Ethereum as possible. Thank you.
Hey everyone, and Kin Wai, the CEO and founder of zkCandy. zkCandy is a layer 2 gaming chain that came from a collaboration between Meta Labs and iCandy, Southeast Asia's largest game developer, via a zk roll-up L2 chain.
Great. We have a lot of experts in the L2 space. And I think for the benefit of, everyone, right, I think we should probably talk about why an L2 is needed, particularly on Ethereum. We'd love to, hear people's thoughts on this.
Sure, I can go first. So on a very kind of high level, we can start from Ethereum. We're all here more or less because of Ethereum. I would make a statement that we all love Ethereum, but Ethereum is not perfect. Ethereum birthed this world of DeFi and this world computing and all the beautiful things that are happening in our industry, but it's just not scalable enough, right? It's expensive, slow, clunky. It's not ready for mass adoption. So this is the business we're in. We're trying to scale Ethereum and make it better for the kind of average user. The TLDR for like the two main directions for how to scale Ethereum is optimistic rollups and zk rollups. Right now we've seen, most of the largest rollup solutions are optimistic. So Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, and so on. The top 5 TVL rollups are for now optimistic. And what that means is transactions are taken away from Ethereum. They're put on a different chain. They happen there, and then all of those transactions get batched and then posted on Ethereum. But with optimistic chains, you just kind of assume that those transactions are not fraudulent. They're valid, everything is great, rainbows and butterflies, perfect. But then you have 7 days to actually check the transaction. So there's various network participants who are seeing if these transactions are actually valid, and you typically have about 7 days to inform the network that, hey, there's been something fraudulent happening, and then we can revert that transaction. That's called a fraud proof, which is not fully live on all networks, but that's generally the idea. And then there's a kind of a zk rollup, which is similar idea, which is, we have to scale Ethereum, we have to make it cheaper and faster and more user friendly. But instead of giving the 7-day period of giving network participants time to prove that some transaction may have been fraudulent, zk rollups just use math to do it, and there's various pros and cons. We can talk about each, but that's basically why we're all here, and we have all of us have our own ways of scaling Ethereum. That's basically the high level purpose for our existence.
Thank you for the definition of optimistic rollup and zk rollup. I don't think I'm going to talk about that further here because you gave us a great explanation. What we're trying to do with the optimistic rollup is that we use the OP stack from the OP Labs, and we have the zk EVM in place of a zk fault proof system coming out of Scroll on top of that. So we made some modification, like most of the other OP stack users, in order for us to move from the optimistic rollup to zk rollup sometime next year. So that's why we are adding on to the Ethereum ecosystem for now. So I think I'll stop here. I think it's more interesting to hear more about the zk side from them. So
yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic, all of this. And on Taiko, we actually have slightly different views on all of this as well, in that we've now come up with a slightly hybrid approach, which is what we call our based contestable rollup. And in our based contestable rollup, what we actually do here is that we have introduced multi-proof systems. So we talked about zk initially, and obviously there are slight how can I put it? It's like drawbacks, we could say, because of like computational power, etc., and all of that will take time and a lot of power and energy. However, if you look at some of the other slightly lower tier proving systems, we have things like SGX, for example, which can prove things a much faster and less resource intensive space. So in that sort of respect, you can actually have like a faster proving time. And then you can actually later on, if you wish to contest that, you can contest it with a zk proof, for example, and that will give people the benefit of having security and also the fraud proof that they actually need if something was actually spotted.
Oh, very cool. I have perhaps a very simplistic layman view of why L2 is needed. So imagine Ethereum is a big highway. There'll be millions of people, cars who want to get onto it. It will be congested and various problems will arise. Layer 2, as the name suggests, would be highways that are built on top. You could have different technology, different flavor. You basically move some of this traffic to not the main highway, but one layer on top. And then occasionally, of course, you have to do things back at the main highway. But now cars could travel at much faster speed across whatever, 8, 10, 12, whatever many layer 2 systems will be out there.
Excellent. So as a kind of a follow-up to, what is L2, right? And you mentioned, specifically optimistic rollups and zk rollups, right? I'm just wondering, to myself and a lot of this, right? There are a lot of, different projects developing using 2 different sets of technologies. Do you see the end state as having a few companies or many companies developing on, zk sync and optimistic rollups? We'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. Is it going to be a consolidated industry with a few players or, many different industry participants, each of which would do something different with the layer 2 implementations?
Yeah, I think for general purpose chains, which is, chains that kind of do everything and anything, My best guess here, and I can't predict the future, but my best guess is there's going to be a few winners, right? A few winners that will have proper liquidity, great network effects, tons of builders, tons of kind of industry-leading applications, and so on. Maybe a handful, maybe 5, maybe 10, that will survive the inevitable bear markets that are coming at some point. However, I do think that there will be many, many, many chains, whether they're L2s or even L3s, settling on an L2 that are more specialized. Like Kroma is a good example, right? Kroma is more specialized on gaming and specifically in a certain market. So I think there will be a lot of these kind of very specialized, more kind of consumer-driven chains that are optimized for a certain use case. But in terms of general purpose chains, which Taiko from this panel is a general purpose chain. We here at Mantle, we're a general purpose chain. I don't see a reality where there's going to be 100 general purpose chains built on top of Ethereum. That just seems like a UX disaster from my point of view.
I agree. I think one of our teammates actually asked Vitalik of how many L2 is going to be out there in the future, and Vitalik say 200. I was like, okay, he's the one who's always predicting the future, so maybe that's correct. In my perspective, we're going to start with a lot of L2s coming in, more, and different L2s, like Mark mentioned, going to focus on different verticals. Like for us, it's going to be gaming. For some others, it's going to be geological targets. It could be, I don't know, user specifics, driven app chains, things like that. And if that happens, that's going to, each L2 is going to have a different ecosystem, and the few of them will end up merging. I think, I wouldn't say merging, but for the superchain. But superchain is one of the ways for OP Labs to merge the ecosystem as a whole. So that's going to happen. So like Mark mentioned, I think there's going to be a handful of chains that's going to be called as one of the super chains. So when that happens, it's going to be more of a converge. But what I'm trying to say is all the L2s out there are going to have a different set of the users using a set of the users and the purposes for each specific chains, and that's going to converge at some point.
Yeah, I actually agree with all of those points that you've made. And ultimately, I don't think there's going to be a winner-takes-all scenario. There will be multiple L2s out there for their specific purposes. And in addition to all of that, you will also find that, some people from an end-user perspective may favor one chain over another chain for favoritism or, for the applications that they want to use ultimately. So if you look at Taiko, for example, being a Type 1 zkVM, we are also a based rollup. And that basically means for us, for the developers, all of development will be very, very easy because all you need to do is switch the RPC. So from an Ethereum-based developer, they just need to switch the RPC and the application will work for those guys. Now, from a user perspective also, users are interested more in the applications that they wish to use. So also on Taiko, we've also developed like what we call like an L3. So it's Taiko built upon Taiko. So we had one of those running on one of our previous testnets. And if you take a look at those, for example, you will find that they run at a higher speed and they can be more app specific. So as you guys were talking about, specific gaming, for example, those are examples where applications can use an app-specific chain. Those also have their drawbacks because it may mean that they become more centralized in terms of the proving solutions. But again, ultimately it depends on the applications, the developers, and also the use cases. So I don't think there's going to be any winner-takes-all scenario, and there will definitely be a lot of roll-ups based upon the usage and favoritism from various developers and end users.
Oh, very cool. I mean, totally agree with whatever been said. I think it's interesting that David mentioned Vitalik's prediction of 200 L2 chains, for example. I think it's definitely not a winner-take-all situation, and there is a network effect where plenty of L2s potentially they could interact with each other. It has various specific verticals, geography targets, and all those. I think it's definitely very interesting to see different favors of L2s coming in, and that will add a lot more depth to the whole L2 ecosystem to me.
Excellent responses. As a follow-up to this, right, I'm actually, we talked a little bit about, the core technologies behind, Ethereum L2s, which is, zk as well as optimistic rollups. Do you guys see any emerging technologies that could further, make L2s more efficient? And maybe, like from an emerging technology perspective, it could be for all L2s or it could be, specific for certain applications. Would love to hear, any of your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I can start. So on Taiko, we're actually building what we call a booster based rollup. And what that simply means is, in layman terms, you can think of it as more like adding CPU storage onto a desktop PC, for example. So the way that works for Ethereum and layer 2s is you can actually boost a layer 2. And all that simply means from a technology perspective is that from a developer perspective, they will be implementing or deploying their application on layer 1, and they could be able to execute it across all boosted layer 2s. So that's something that we are currently working on come after our mainnet, which will be launching sometime after, in Q2. So our new technology that we're currently working on will come shortly after that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. There's so many. Like one of the things that we're often ridiculed about in our industry is like how many L2s there are. But I actually think it's net positive for the industry, right? Like we need a variety of solutions. We need experimentation. I am actually anti-cabals. I want all of us to try different things, and this is what I think open source culture is. You made something, I will take it, I will make it a little bit better, and I'll keep it open source, and then you can take what I made and you can make that better. And I think this in a scalable way is what will really make our whole industry flourish. So I welcome this like 1,000 L2 narrative at this point. I think it's net positive, even though not everybody will make it. Some of the things that I'm excited about, obviously with Mantle, we're exploring, or we currently have an alt DA solution. So we're not a full rollup, as I think everyone else in this panel is. So we only post the state root to Ethereum. Everything else gets posted on an alt DA solution. We have worked with EigenLayer since 2022. Sriram was actually a co-author of our chain and our governance proposal back in the summer of 2022, and we proposed this modular solution of kind of separating the call data, which is where most of the cost for rollups at that point were coming from, and putting it into EigenLayer solution. For now, we're running our own instance of EigenLayer, which is called Mantle DA, but we are very much planning to migrate to EigenDA eventually. What for us? What that means is we're going to be, there's not going to be a throughput issue at any point in the near future. So where the post 4844 rollup world, you're still kind of, it's not a fully scalable solution for mass adoption, right? You still have kilobytes per second in terms of throughput, not TPS throughput specifically in terms of how much data can pass. With EigenDA, depending on the hardware setup, it can go up to 1 gigabyte per second, right? So you can imagine gaming solutions, social kind of mainstream social media applications that could be using this, and they really do need the throughput. So, all DA solutions is something that we're obviously actively looking into and working with EigenLayer. For myself, parallelized EVM solutions are quite interesting. There's a Mega ETH that's quite interesting. That's working into in that respect, and many others. But I feel like all of us are solving our own kind of own problems in our own ways, and I think that's net positive for the entire industry.
Awesome. I guess as a evolution of the question that I raised before, right? A lot of times when I'm, utilizing L2s, right? Some L2s are very easy to use because I can just, connect my MetaMask wallet, tie it to an L2, and then function with it, right? But what I wonder is, do you see any evolutions in UI UX technology that will basically be able to onboard, the mass population rather to directly to the Ethereum network, to the L2s that you guys are building? I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question, and ultimately that's something that a lot of developers are also wondering as well. Because if you look out there now, there are a lot of L2s. There are also fragmentation as well, based upon all of these L2s that have been created. So in terms of like a user experience, the ideal would be that you, for an end user, you would just log into your MetaMask or whatever wallet that you're using, and then send somebody some funds, and you wouldn't care what chain it was on, what layer 2 it was on. It would just arrive, and the user would be able to use it. So these are things that have been discussed in the past. And these are things also that I know that a number of applications and projects and also wallets are also working towards in terms of cross-chain interoperability as well. So, in terms of these sorts of solutions going forward, I feel that, these are really needed from an end user perspective. If you look at it at a high level, technology is great, right? So for all the techies out there, the technology is absolutely fantastic. We make a lot of progress in that sort of area. But in terms of your consumers to onboard the next billion users, you need something that is really, really simple, something that people can just generally relate to, almost like your Visa card. You go out there with your Visa card, you don't care, you just want to spend your money, right? So that's exactly what I think we actually need as a whole industry, to try to make it more easier for all of the end users and consumers to use, because they're not going to be interested in ultimately people playing games. For example, they'll play a game and they're not going to care what chain it's on, right? Because they just like to play the game. But we, from a technology perspective, need to make it easy for these people to onboard, to be able to play that game without having to set up their wallet, go to this chain or that chain, or find out later that, okay, I really like this game, but now I like this other game and it's actually on a different chain, and I now need to go and bridge to a different chain to actually use it. So we need to abstract all of that away and make it easier for the end users.
Yeah, I want to say something about this. Using blockchain is very difficult, to be honest with anyone here. I think working on the UX is also important. But what we're trying to do in order to make the better UX is to gamify the whole process. We are a gaming-specific chain, so we're working on something called Kroma Creative Universe, where everyone who's enjoying the blockchain technology itself is, be able to make their characters and have the experience. They earn these the levels to achieve and receive some sort of reward in turn, just using the chain itself. So it lowers a lot of bars in terms of bringing more people in. I mean, as a whole, we all together in the same place to bring the next billion, like you mentioned. So it's everyone's jobs and the problems to solve to have more users to come in. And I think the gamification, the whole chain is definitely one of it. And that's one of the reasons why we were focusing on the gaming part of the blockchain, because the gaming itself is going to lower the bars for everyone to enjoy. Like you mentioned, people don't have to worry about which chain they're playing the games on. It's all about the game itself and having the fun, which is the core idea and the definition of the game. So it's something that we are focusing on. That's why to bring the next billion to not only to our chain, to the blockchain itself.
I agree. I mean, for me, I think it's all about reducing friction, right? So, like, if a gamer plays a game, ideally, he doesn't even need to know that a wallet is being created. And I think you're seeing a lot of this innovation coming on. I saw a wallet solution last week that is based on facial recognition as your seed phrase. You don't have to worry about writing down 16 keywords. just your face, right? That's going to be a lot smoother and easier to onboard a person onto that wallet, right? Compared to various things that we are seeing now.
So I disagree with everyone on this panel. Just hear me out here. So back when 4337 was the talk of town, Ethereum Foundation kind of coined this like, hey, the next billion users and blah, blah, blah. Great. My background is in consumer research, product research. I've worked with Web2 companies, FANG, every single FANG company, actually. User acquisition, user retention is a very, very, very difficult game. And just you solving some UX issues and making UX better does not bring the next billion users to our technology. So I remember tweeting, account abstraction doesn't bring a billion users to crypto. Solving critical, extremely painful problems will bring a billion users to crypto. So I think actually the UX is already, like if you compare UX with maybe some TradFi Rails, a lot of crypto UX is a million times better already. If I, from New York, want to send money to my mom in Finland, it is much easier for me to do that in theory using crypto than using, traditional banking rails. However, currently still with the current regulatory environment and certain other issues, I'm not yet able to solve this problem the way I want. So the UX actually is okay. Like it's better than many other things that exist out there. But we do have to find critical, painful problems to solve through products that are excellent and are not only slightly better than our Web2 counterparts, but 10 times or 100 times better. And then we have to solve this regulatory environment, which is a gray zone, which is a red flag. It brings bad reputation to crypto and so on. So yeah, I think account abstraction and making UX slightly better is not going to bring a billion people to crypto.
Very, very interesting. I agree with everyone here, and I'll take a more balanced approach here. I know we're limited on time. I think the underlying technology has to be there for all of these things to work. But I also know that, so for example, let's say that I wanted to create a hot wallet and I want to manage the funds myself, right? If you don't know what you're doing, you can very easily pass your seed phrase and get hacked, and then you'll lose your funds, right? The technology isn't really there for the average Joe to basically say, oh, I want to custody my hot wallet myself, and then prevent hackers from accessing it or knowing how to store the seed phrase. It's a really, really it's a huge pain to basically know the right ways to store your seed phrase, right? And then you have cold wallets, but then cold wallets are very, painful to use. You need to know exactly how to store the seed phrase, how to know your password, and so what is kind of the next evolution of that? There has to be an evolution where the average Joe can just go on with an email address, through account abstraction. That needs to be there, but also the technology needs to be there as well. So more of a balanced view. Right?
Yeah, I do think for the average Joe, receiving a new password is a million times more difficult than setting up a wallet, actually, or even setting up a bank account with traditional Rails is actually a million times more difficult. But doing those things solve incredibly critical problems. For me to come to Bangkok and be on this panel, I need to have a passport. So I need to go through the terrible user experience to get a new passport because it solves a critical problem. And I think we're actually underestimating users. Most people can figure it out at this point. Also, a lot of these beautiful account abstraction solutions already exist, right? I can show my friends at Clave who are building a beautiful mobile native wallet on zkSync. It's the easiest thing to onboard your mom to crypto. You send a message with your iMessage, hey, you sign up to your wallet here, and then boom, 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 you have a wallet, you have all the seed phrases taken care of on the back end. But in terms of onboarding, it's an incredible, simple, easy solution. And yeah, we're not zkSync obviously, but there's many of these solutions already. I think the real issues are somewhere else actually.
Awesome. I know that we're running out of time, so I want to make a quick closing remark. And the closing remark is, we're very early in L2 development, right? Even in the Ethereum ecosystem, even in crypto, we're extremely early. And it's very, very interesting to see, novel technologies and how it'll play out in the next 5 to 10 years. I do think that in the next 5 to 10 years, Ethereum L2s can be a potential to facilitate international fund transfers or to facilitate, gaming, right? And so there's so much more that, this ecosystem can do. And we're just in the first inning out of like a 9-inning, baseball game. And so I just want to thank all of the panelists here. Very awesome discussion. And thank you all for listening. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.